All right, students, I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as possible. So it currently reads 4 o'clock. So we're going to try to do this, finish this off by 4:30. Okay, so the assignment in and of itself, a lot of people were like, oh, I don't know what to do. And thankfully, people are sort of catching up. So again, at this point, each of these assignments, right? If you go... And let's just take a look at classes, right? So you guys in the second period, your thing should look like that. Third period, the border should look like that. If you go in, situation where pretty much all the assignments, so there's a couple that's due on April. Now these, for the most part, like they're gonna be extra credit, and we have to have like 3 so assignments loaded for you guys over the course of the week. Let's see if I can pull that up really quick. So even so, going in and answering those questions will add to that. Now, it's a situation where there was some hinkiness with the grading system, so it was just refiled. So it's a situation where, that's why it hasn't been loaded yet. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, and yeah, so you go, roommates. But like at this point, like you're just gonna have to deal with the noise. It's not like I have a classroom. All right, so with this, let's take a look at. So you're gonna go here where it says textual analysis, and with where it says textual analysis, you're looking at where it says. So where it says Macbeth, there you can find the entire play, right? So you hit that link and it will take you there, okay? And you use the scroll button to scroll down and you can see the whole play. I've posted that with pretty much every single assignment, okay? Where it says essay instructions, right? This tells you pretty much, helps you review what I expect from the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. That has not changed. Some people were turning in things that did not have a clear introduction. If it doesn't have a clear introduction, the grade for the thesis is a 1. So if the thesis is not an archetype, it is a 1, right? Which starts you off with a 60. So none of the rubrics, none of the grading systems has changed. So not following it is basically going to represent the same grade, right? Okay. So if you need a refresher, again, I put like but goes into an introduction, and introduction again is always an archetypal reflection. Body is always analysis. Conclusions as well. People are just sort of either reiterating what they wrote in the introduction. There's my roommates again. Have roommates because like in an actual classroom, I don't. And so in the introduction, it's a situation where you are writing the archetype in the body, you're analyzing, and then in the conclusion, again, you're giving a schema connection and an evaluation. Okay, so you're making a thesis, right? You're hold on a second, let's listen to my roommates argue again. There's no point where this is not gonna be going on. Okay, so it's a situation where it's gonna be text to text, text to self, and text to world, okay? If it's not text to text, text to self, text to world, if you're not making a connection, it's a 1, okay? So I'm not going to give a grade to something that's not actually following the directions that we've pretty much been following all year. Okay. And again, I also give you the matrix grades down here as well, in terms of the thesis, evidence and reasoning, as well as synthesis. Okay. So the whole point of this, and again, so at this point we got 25 minutes left. So again, the whole point of this is to pretty much help walk you through this. The other thing that I almost forgot to mention is, okay, so with this you have so you just click on it and you have the text right there, and that's just been for every single assignment. So you actually have to read the instructions, folks. Okay. I've gotten a lot of emails where it's just sort of like very clear that people have not like actually read the instructions that are posted here, and that needs to continue to happen. Especially now that, you guys are doing this independently. So let's close out of there. The other thing so you need to make sure that you're putting this also in Google Docs. Okay. People are asking about my timetable for doing things. Well, guess what? If I have to hunt around and spend more time, like actually trying to find your essays and this and that other thing, because you're putting it in other platforms, you're doing all this other stuff. Every time that you're not following instructions, people are not sort of just going along with the flow of things, that takes an inordinate amount of more time, right? Which pretty much takes away from the amount of time necessary to get these grades actually done and pinpointed. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't accept late work. Now I'm accepting late work as well as resubmissions. So yeah, it will take more time to puts the final grades into Jupyter. Okay. All right. So you're writing an essay here, at least 3 paragraphs: introduction, body, analysis, and conclusion. Right. Make sure that those at least 3 paragraphs are paragraphs, right? So they're indented. They're spaced apart so that I can see that there's a difference. And then you're following instructions given in the essay instructions, which I just showed you. You're also following MLA rules. So one of the things that might be happening, I don't know what the university situation is, but if it's a situation where, come August, universities start back up and they decided they're going to be completely online, guess what? It will be a situation where MLA will definitely apply even more so, because everything you're doing, you're going from, having to rely on MLA 50% of the time to having to rely on MLA 99% of the time, right? So in terms of font, in terms of line spacing, in terms of all the other things that you're supposed to be doing, if you're paraphrasing, putting the line numbers that you're paraphrasing, all this other stuff is going to be even more crucial. Okay. All right. So, so that gives us 20 more minutes to get through this reading. All right. So where it says Google Docs, and it'll either say essay form, it will say submit, it will say, write your essay here, right? But it will always be some sort of Google Doc. And then once you go into that Google Doc, you're going to make sure that you hit, mine says share, but you're going to make sure you hit turn in, for that, so that, it actually gets submitted. Okay. The other thing, the reason why you're not putting it on a PDF is so that when I go in and I'm looking at your stuff, let's take a look. Right? So when I go in and I'm looking at your stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, let me take a look at, so for example, okay. So when I go in and I'm taking a look at what you're writing, one of the things that I'm doing is trying to make sure that I give you some sort of opportunity to like change things and make submissions. So what you see here is what I'll do is in the comment section actually like make, suggestions and things like that. Now, if it's a PDF that I can actually access, I can't do that. That basically means that you don't get a chance to change your grade. Okay? So again, there's a reason why I formatted the things the way that I formatted them. Follow them along because, as always, that is used and thought out to help you. Okay? All right. Okay, so let's get to the lesson again. And I got to get this out because I got some other reports to do, so I can't wait until later. Okay, so we're going into where it says online Macbeth, and it lists the form, right? And there it is, right? So we're going to read through this, but I'm going to go to my copy so I can save it. So it says, Macbeth Act 3, Scene 3, and you're writing, and so it says you're going to analyze the following passage. You're going to break the passage down into parts. So I'm expecting an analysis in the body in terms of what Macbeth is saying. You're going to make sure that you interpret each part, explain how each part relates to each other, which is the inferences. You're also going to explain how each part relates to the overall concept of agency and character arc. Okay? So you're going to make sure that they relate to the overall concept of agency and character arc. So as always with the body, you're going to get a grade for evidence, which is how much of the text you're actually breaking down into parts and analyzing. You're going to also get a grade for the inferences that you're making in terms of how you're making sure everything relates to each other, as well as how it's related to the overall idea of both agency and character. Okay? And keep in mind that this represents. So again, we're in the falling action of this play, and it's already. And as always, we're already dealing with the fact that since it's a tragedy, the antagonist is the one that has triumphed. And again, introduction should have the archetype. It's written right there. The body has the interpretations and inferences in your analysis. It's written right there. The conclusion has the schema connections, and it's written right there. Okay. So Macbeth Act 3, Scene 2, the palace. Lady Macbeth says, is Banquo gone from court? He says, I, ma'am, returns tonight. Sifari, the king, attend his leisure. Madam, I will. Then Lady Macbeth says something interesting that's going to be interesting later on. This is one of the reasons why, even though something might not seem like important in the beginning, you want to make sure that you are analyzing every single part. So she says, not all's had, all's spent. Where our desire is not without content, 'tis safer to be that which we destroy than by destroying dwell in doubtful joy. Right? So So 'tis safer to be that which we destroy than by destruction dwell in doubtful joy. Right? All spent where our desire is got without content. When she says where our desire is got without content, right? She's basically saying what? How does she feel, right? About getting what she has desired. Okay, so that's what you're writing there, right? How does she feel about getting what she desired? To safer to be that which we destroy, right? So whose life did she destroy, right? And so whose life did she destroy, right? So when she says that, another pronoun could be who, right? So to say for it to be who we destroyed, right? Whose life was she complicit in destroying, right? Not Macbeth himself, or Macbeth by himself, right? But whose life was she complicit in helping to destroy, right? And she's saying it's to safer to be that person, right? Then why? Okay. Then by destruction dwell in doubtful joy, right? So by dwell, she means to live, right? So there's this person that was killed, right? So I'm trying to do this without necessarily giving all the answers here. So there's this person that was killed, right? And the living, even though they got what they wanted, right? That joy, that happiness is doubtful. Okay. Right. So why is that joy doubtful? Why is that happiness doubtful? And so basically what she's saying here is, so you're putting these three things together in terms of what is she saying here about having achieved what she wanted. Now we move on to Macbeth. Macbeth enters and he says, how now, my lord, why do you keep alone? Right? And then she says, the sorriest fancies our companion's making. No, why does he stay by himself? Right? Your companion's making, using those thoughts which should indeed have died. So your sorrows your companions making, using those thoughts which should have indeed and died. With them, they think on. Let's see if we can minimize this here. There we go. With them, they think on things without all remedy, should without regard. What's done is done. So him acting weird, right, is making other people wonder, right, why he's acting so weird, right? And so her thought is, okay, if he keeps acting weird, people are going to start asking questions, and she doesn't want them asking questions, right? Okay, so with Macbeth, he says, we have scorched the snake, not killed it. Here it says scotched. In my book, it says scorched. So we have scorched the snake, cannot kill it. She'll close and be herself, whilst our poor Malice remains in danger of her former tooth. So another way of thinking about it is sort of like we poked the bear, we've wounded the bear, but we haven't killed the bear, right? We've wounded the dragon, we haven't killed the dragon, right? So at this point, again, and this goes into like this idea of agency, right? So at this point, he has basically gained power, right? But if you notice, now that he's gained power, and you think that, being king, he has all the agency in the world now that he's gained power, but that something else is pushing him, right? There's this other motivation that's pushing him. right? And it goes into this statement of, we have scorched the snake, not killed it. We have angered we've shot the bear, but we didn't kill the bear. We, hit the pit bull, but we didn't kill the pit bull, right? So, and then she says, well, she'll close and be, so by she, he means the snake, and be herself, which is, a snake kills, right? A snake gets revenge. A snake, whilst our poor malice remains in danger of her former tooth, right? So he's gotten what he wanted, which is to be king, right? But now there's another motivation. So usually, I'm going to try this, make this, because we got 9 minutes left, and I want to make these about a half an hour. This would go into schema connection, okay? And again, a schema connection is a text-to-text, text-to-word, text-to-self situation. You're taking a concept that is supposed to be archetypal to every single person, right? And by schema connection, you're testing whether or not that actually does relate to you, relate to something that you have, and if it does relate, is archetype, it's very archetypal. If it doesn't relate, well, that archetype has limits, right? So you're testing in the conclusion, you're testing the limitations. With the schema connection, you're testing the limitations of that archetype. So, archetypal connection that I have to this is the fact that he, when I was in Boy Scouts, it was a situation where we would play this game called King of the Mountain. And in King of the Mountain, we would find a hill or a mountain, a hill, usually, a nice steep hill. And there would be, let's say, about 20 of us, we were in Boy Scouts. So there'd be 20 of us in the woods. And the principle of the game is very simple. We all gather around the hill, right? And then the job is to run up the hill and stand at the top of the hill. And let's say you play for about 10 minutes, right? And you set your time rule. So, and the rule is there are no rules. So you can hit people, you can push people down, you can clip people, you can kick people. There were once where there was some biting involved. It's a situation where the rule is there are no rules, but the only rule is to get to the top of the hill. Now, here's the problem. Let's say you get to the top of the hill and it's 10 minutes, and you get to the top of the hill and you get to the top of the hill in the first 5 minutes. Well, now you have to spend the rest of the 5 minutes doing what? And that's the hardest part of the game, staying at the top of the hill, right? And this is what this schema connection, I'm not going to, spell it out for you, but this schema connection is pretty much going along with what Macbeth is saying here. That's the reason for the connection that I'm making, right? Because staying at the top of the hill means that now, like I said, if there's 20 boys playing, now you have 19 people that pretty much are trying to rip you from the top of that hill, right? And you gotta defend yourself for about 5 minutes. Okay. So let's keep going. So he says, but let the frame of things disjoint, both the worlds suffer. Ere we will eat our meal in fear and sleep. So I'm going to highlight that as well. Right? So why does he feel that we will eat our meal? Like again, he's a king at this point, right? We'll eat our meal in fear and sleep in the affliction of terrible dreams that shake us nightly. Right? The fear of terrible dreams that shake us nightly. Then the next thing he says, and at this point, you should be making, when he says this, you should be making an inference to what Lady Macbeth was saying earlier. Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy. Duncan is in his grave, right? After life's fearful fever, he sleeps well, right? So he sleeps well. Okay, I did not mean to do that. I meant to do a different color. Is it too late? Yes. Okay. So he sleeps well, right? So again, at this point, like, what's the motivation? And again, for the most part, like, this is kind of archetypal. Okay, so 4 more minutes. Then he says, treason has done his worst, nor steel, nor poison. Malice, domestic, foreign, lady, nothing can touch him further. Right? Come on, gentle my lord, sleek over your rugged looks, be bright and jovial amongst your guests. So shall I love, and so pray you. Let our remembrance apply to Banquo. And I get to, at this point, I just want to make sure that there's no confusions here. She does not know what he intends for Banquo. So the Banquo thing is all Macbeth's thinking, right? Then he says one of the most famous lines here: "So full of scorpions is my mind, dear wife." Right? Thou knowest that Banquo and his flayance lives. Right? So full of scorpions is my line. That's something, that's definitely a line that should be making it into your essay. But in them nature's copy, not eternal. And then there's comfort, yet they are assailable. Keep going down. He's talking about, and he says, all right. So he says that the deed, there's a dreadful deeds to be done. And she's like, what's to be done? Again, because she doesn't know what he plans for Banquo and Flayance. Right? And then he says, be innocent of the knowledge, dear Chuck, till thou applaud the deed. So until it's actually done, I don't want to tell you about it. Right? And then he says something here. And we had this whole talk about about agency and the gender balance between them, you know, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. At this point, he says, come see the knife, scarp up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand, cancel and tear to pieces that great bond which keeps me pale. Right? And this entire thing, right, should draw a inference back to something that Lady Macbeth, and I'll give you that much of a hint, says earlier in the play, right? And again, you have the whole text as a link in the Google Classroom, okay? As well as this video, which some of you might be actually watching all the way through. Some of you might not. One of the reasons why I'm trying to make these shorter. So he says, come see the knife, scarf up the tender eye of flint. So, like, again, this is pretty much like a prayer, right? And there'll be enough of a hint there. So there should be some sort of inference made between those two portions. So in the body, I'm expecting an interpretation. I'm expecting inferences between different portions of this particular part, as well as to other things that have been said previous in the play. And again, in the introduction, I'm expecting some sort of archetypal statement about agency in general when it comes to people. In the conclusion, I'm expecting a concrete, like, for example, boring story about, the Boy Scouts right? Detailed text to text, text to self, text to world, testing of the archetype, right? To see whether or not it actually applies to different people. And that includes you. Okay. All right. So 4:30. So hopefully this was useful. And again, just trying to get through these as quickly as possible. I hope you and your family and your loved ones are healthy, and I'll try to get this loaded as quickly as possible. But like, again, for the most part, like, as long as everything is, so for the most part, check on Fridays, right? To see in terms of like the grades in terms of Jupiter. Okay. All right. So take care. Bye.